By the end of this video, you will have the skills you need to sell successfully on Poshmark. Let's go. Hi everyone, my name is Becky Park and I have done over $100,000 in sales on Poshmark alone as a part-time reseller since starting on there in December of 2017. I also am a high school choir teacher. I am a mom to two very busy kids. I have a robust personal life, and so this amount of money that I've earned on Poshmark really is with very limited hours per week. So I have broken this video into 5 main steps when it comes to selling on Poshmark. These are the 5 things that you have to know how to do. And then at the end, I also have just some miscellaneous tips for you as you start your Poshmark journey. And I will have timestamps down in the description below so that you can skip around and get to the information that you want even more quickly. And generally speaking, if you are looking to supplement your income with reselling, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I upload helpful tips and tricks types of videos like this on a weekly basis. And I'd love for you to join my community of part-time resellers. So let's get right into it with step number 1, which is to prep what you want to sell on Poshmark. The first thing you want to do is find the items that you want to sell. I remember going through my closet, going through my kids' closet, my husband's closet, and now with the way that Poshmark has evolved, because you can sell things like home goods and electronics and even things for your pets. So now I would also go through my kitchen, I would go through my basement, look through my garage, just anything that I'm not using anymore. I would pull those things out and get them in the best shape that they can be in order for me to sell them. Or if you would rather find things to sell outside of your home, you can go to places like thrift stores, garage sales, consignment stores, and you can purchase items to resell online. If you want to do that, you just want to make sure that your items are in the best condition possible. A lot of times, even as a pretty seasoned thrifter, I will get an item home and realize I just didn't look it over well enough. I missed a stain or I missed a big rip or something like that. So you just want to make sure that you are picking up items in really, really good condition. And you want to make sure that it's the type of thing that someone would really want to give you money for online before you purchase it and bring it home. And what I mean by that is if you're going to the thrift store, just because something is in really good condition doesn't mean that it's the type of item that a lot of people are looking for right now on Poshmark. And if that's the case, if it's not really trendy right now, if it's not in style, it may be something that you want to leave behind at the thrift store. The next thing I would do is to figure out how much your time is worth to you. And what I mean by that is you can sell just about anything on the internet, but just because it can sell doesn't mean that it's worth your time to get it listed. What I mean by that is assume that you're going to spend at least 10 minutes on any given item from the beginning of getting it listed to getting that item actually sold. And if you're first starting out, assume that that time is actually going to be even more per item. You're probably looking more at like 20 to 30 minutes per item versus 10 minutes that it might take someone who's been doing this for a while. And if that's the case, is it worth it to you to list something that is only going to sell for $5 and potentially make you a profit of $2.05? Or do you want to only list items that are going to make you a minimum amount of money, things that will sell for a minimum amount? At this point, I really am trying to only list items that I think will make me a minimum profit of $20. And that's something that you have to decide for yourself because it will help you eliminate a lot of items that you may have in your closet that are in good condition, but just aren't going to be able to sell for that amount of money. And the things that I'm thinking about when I think of is it worth my time to list or not are, the condition of the item, the brand. For example, are you really going to be able to sell items by Shein, from Target, from Forever 21 for more than $5 to $10? Chances are probably not. And so as you are looking at your pile of things that you could potentially sell on Poshmark, I would ask myself, is this item realistically something that could sell for more than $5 or $10? And if not, is it worth your time? Do you want to take the time to photograph, list, ship that item once it sells? The next thing you want to consider when you are prepping your items to sell is you want to make sure that they are in the best condition possible. If an item is very wrinkly, get the wrinkles out. If there's some pilling on a sweater that you're looking to sell, maybe get your sweater shaver out and get rid of the pilling. If you're selling a pair of shoes and there's some mud caked on the bottom of the shoes, maybe just take an old toothbrush to the bottom of your shoes and get that mud off. You just want to make sure that your items look the best that they can before you go to the next step, which is photographing your your items. And the final thing I will say when it comes to prepping the items that you're going to sell is you can sell items that are flawed. I have actually made a lot of money selling items that have little holes in them or that have little stains or little rips. You just want to make sure that you identify where those flaws are. I like to take like a little piece of washi tape or painter's tape and just put it on the flaw itself so that I don't forget where that flaw is when I'm photographing the item. And I do that so that I can photograph the flaw itself and so that I can talk about the flaws in the description of that item. So once you've prepped your items, the next step is you're going to photograph the items that you want to sell on Poshmark. When it comes to photographing your items, you just want to take the best pictures possible. And even though I have a fancy camera, that's the one I'm actually using to film right now, I don't use that to take pictures of my items. I just use my iPhone because that's all I need to take really high quality pictures of my items. Now, even though I just use my iPhone, I do utilize some simple tricks to get the most out of the pictures that I take. For example, if I am taking pictures of an article of clothing that is black or just really dark in color, I will increase the exposure on my iPhone's camera before I even take the picture because that allows me to see as much detail on the garment versus if I weren't to increase the exposure. Then it just looks like a black blob on the wall. Another thing that I do before I even take any pictures is I will change the size of the picture from regular 4:3 to square mode because when you upload pictures to Poshmark, it will automatically show them in square mode. And so you want to make sure that you take pictures in square mode to begin with so that you're not having to cut off, the tops or the bottoms of your pictures when they get uploaded to Poshmark. And finally, I have made the simple error of having a smudgy lens when I take my pictures, which causes my pictures not to look as great. So I always make sure to just kind of wipe down the lens of my iPhone camera before I start snapping pictures. The next thing you want to do is make sure that you are taking pictures with the best lighting possible. It doesn't mean you have to purchase a whole light kit or anything like that. When I first started taking pictures, I actually just used natural light like I'm getting right now in my bedroom. And I did that for many years. About a year and a half ago, we moved into a new house and I decided that the unfinished portion of my basement would become my reselling area. And the space that I use in my basement actually doesn't even have a window. So there is no natural light. Therefore, I have since then purchased a light box or a photo box, and that works great as well, but you don't have to put any money into getting good lighting. Just figure out which room in your house gets the best lighting and figure out what time of day you get the best light and just prioritize taking pictures in that space during the time that it gets the best light, and that's really all you need. And then you can even go into your phone after you've taken the picture, increase the exposure a little bit, and then I'll add a little bit more light to your photo as well. You also want to make sure that the item you're photographing is the star of your picture, and what I mean by that is get rid of any other clutter that may appear in your pictures. I can't tell you how many times I have seen pictures of items on the floor, but there's like garbage surrounding the item in question. Or I've seen pictures of items hung on their door frame, but again, there is other stuff just kind of cluttering up the pictures on the sides. When I first started on Poshmark, I would just lay the piece of clothing down on my wood floors because it looked really nice. I would just make sure that everything else that was in the room was pushed out of the frame. And so when I took a picture of the item on the floor, you wouldn't see anything else in the picture, just that piece of clothing. And then I put a command hook on just a plain wall and I would just hang my items from that command hook. And again, just make sure that there was nothing else in the frame when I snap my picture. And now, like I stated earlier, I take pictures of all of my items in my light box. But if you are trying to take pictures of an item and you can't help but have other things in the background, like maybe you can't help but see your couch in the background, or you can't help but see your TV or something like that, there are things that you can do to get rid of anything that may be in the background. I actually have a super old video that I will link right here. I think I made this video like 4 or 5 years ago, but this is what I did in order to get rid of anything that was in the background of my pictures for free, because now I do use some paid apps and things like that. But this is what I used to do when I first started reselling on Poshmark, and it worked great. It took a little bit more time than some of these free apps, but if you're not in a position where you want to spend money on other tools, then the tips that I share in this particular video worked really great for me, and I'll have that video linked down below in the description as well. I will also link any of the products that I talk about in this video, like my photo light box. I'll have all of those linked down in the description below as well. The next thing you want to consider when you're taking pictures of your items is you want to make sure that you take as many pictures of the item as you need to in order for the buyers to have full confidence in what it is that they're buying. So for example, when it comes to clothing items, I like to take pictures of the front of the item, the back of the item, a close-up or two of the item if I want to show off any details or if I want to show off what the fabric looks like. I'll take a picture of the brand label tag. I'll take a picture of the care tag. I'll take pictures of measurements of the item and of course any flaws that I have found on the garment itself. Now when it comes to offering measurements, this is hotly debated, but I will just say on my end that especially when it comes to buying pants, I will not buy pants secondhand, and I buy the majority of my clothing secondhand on places like Poshmark, but I will not buy pants if there are not measurements in the listing. I like to see pictures of measurements, and that's why I will actually take pictures of a measuring tape on my garment itself so that there's no question of how I arrived at that measurement number. But if someone just puts the measurements in the listing description, I'm okay with that too. But just because I have the shortest legs ever, I have to know what the inseam on pants are. Otherwise, I don't bother to buy those pants because I'm just gonna assume that they're too long. So while, whether or not you need to include measurements is highly debated, I personally am camp give measurements, and I just take pictures of measurements because it's easier for me to do that than it is to write down the measurements somewhere and remember to include those measurements in my listing description. Finally, if you want to take the time to edit your photos after you take them, you certainly can. This is something that I do at this point of my reselling career. Once I take my pictures, I will go through each picture and I will raise the exposure. Again, that's something that I can just do for free just through the Photos app on my iPhone. But I also have, like I said, paid apps like Photo Room where I will remove the background of my pictures so that I have a nice clean white background. This is not necessary. There are a lot of people who make a lot of sales on Poshmark and they don't remove the background of their pictures. It's just something that I like to do because I'm a little extra. Before we move on to our third point, if you feel like you have learned anything so far in this video, go ahead and hit that like button because that's one way YouTube will know that people enjoy this video, are getting a lot out of it, and share this video with other people on YouTube. So that's a nice free way for you to support me for helping you with your Poshmark journey. But let's move right into the third step, which is creating your listing. So now that you've taken your pictures, you're gonna put those pictures in your listing. And personally, I think that the cover shot, which is the one picture that they'll see as they're scrolling through Poshmark, I think it should be of the front of your garment. I think it should show the entirety of your garment and it should be the first picture that they see. The order of pictures after that isn't really that important because it's not like it takes a lot for people to scroll through, but you just want to make sure that you put all of the pictures that you took of your garment in the listing itself. And I don't even remember how many pictures they allow you to put in the listing. It's a good amount. It used to be that you could only put 8 pictures, but now you can have up to 16 pictures and 1 video. Video, I think, is a really cool new feature that they added. That's especially if you have something that really like sparkles or shines in a way that you can't capture through picture, but through video you can really show like how something moves. You can show, again, if there's just like a sheen to the fabric that you're not able to capture through picture. I'll be honest, I don't include videos on the majority of my listings, but I have been known to include a video if I really want to get super up close and personal with that garment and show it in detail. Next, you're given 80 characters for your listing title. That is every single letter, every single space that you use, and I try to use as many of those 80 characters as possible. The reason for that is because I would say 95% of the way that people find your item on Poshmark is through Poshmark search bar. And so if they type something into that search bar and many of the words in your listing title match what they typed into the search bar, that's how your item is going to show up in the search results. And so you want to make sure that you are giving yourself as many opportunities as possible in your listing title to have words here that will show up in the search bar of Poshmark Poshmark when people are searching for items to buy on Poshmark. So for example, if someone is looking for Lululemon Align leggings on Poshmark and that's what they type into Poshmark search bar, if you have Lululemon Align leggings for sale and those are 3 of the words in your listing title, chances are your Lululemon Align leggings will be one of the hits in the search results. However, just writing Lululemon Align leggings only takes up 24 characters. I actually sat there and counted. So personally, I would also include information regarding the color of your leggings, the length of the leggings, because that's again huge for me. Are they cropped? Are they full length? Are they 7/8? I would include the size in your listing title, and I would include other keywords if there's space left over once you've put in all of the important information about your item. I would include words like athleisure if I had the space, or preppy, or loungewear. Generally speaking, I structure my listing title by starting with NWT if the item is new with tags. If it's not, I don't bother talking about the condition of the item. I'll put the brand, so Lululemon. I will put the style name if I know it, Align. I'll put the color of the item. I'll put what that item is. So, for this example of Align leggings, I'll have Lululemon Align blue leggings. I'll put the gender and size, so I'll say women's size 2. And then if I have any space left over, again, I'll put things like 7/8 length, or I'll put any keywords at the end if I've got room for them. Words like athleisure, loungewear, workout, gym, whatever I want to put that I think people might be searching for using Poshmark's search bar. In the description portion of your listing, you're going to recap what it is that you're selling. I like to take the listing title itself and rewrite it as a sentence. So with that example of my Lululemon Align leggings, I might put something along the lines of, these cropped Lululemon Align leggings are in a women's size 2 and perfect for the gym or to create a preppy outfit for a day of lounging. In that sentence, I basically used every single word from the listing title, but I just rewrote it as a sentence so that people know what it is that I'm selling. Now, in the listing description, I'm also going to put information about its condition, especially if I've only worn it a handful of times and it maybe just doesn't fit me anymore. I'll include that information just to increase my potential buyer's level of confidence in the item. If there are any flaws, I'm obviously going to state what those flaws are in the description. And if you want to type out your measurements, this is where you would put that information as well. And then if there were keywords that you couldn't fit in the listing title, this is where I would put them, because I do believe that there are some people who are not searching very specifically with the Poshmark search engine. Although there are some people that are looking for Lululemon Align leggings, some people are searching for cottagecore dress or whimsy goth outfit or prom dress, right? Like some people are just looking for something that will fit a particular aesthetic, or they're just looking for a pair of shorts to wear on vacation. And so I like to think about what people would type into the Poshmark search engine in order to find the item that I'm trying to sell. And I think nowadays people, especially younger people, and that's kind of the clientele on Poshmark, I think people are searching for different fashion aesthetics. They're searching using keywords like cottagecore, like whimsy goth, like old money. And if you're thinking to yourself, you are speaking a different language right now, I don't even know what you're talking about, I have learned a lot about exactly that, fashion aesthetics, keywords, from a resource called Reseller's Edge University. Reseller's Edge University was started by a few resellers who really know what they're doing, and they especially know what they're doing when it comes to sourcing based on style versus just brands. The resellers in question are Kaylee, Elaine, and Trash Pandas, which are Bethany and Sean. So they have built really robust and impressive reselling businesses. They do know their brands and stuff, but it's also because they know what styles to pick up. They know what's trending, and even if the brand on the label isn't super exciting or impressive, they know that they can actually still make really good money picking up brands that maybe are not super exciting, but clothing that fits a certain aesthetic or style that people are really excited about right now. And that's where I've learned a lot about which keywords keywords to use in my listing title and in the description. They have deep dives on specific fashion aesthetics, on keywords like gorpcore, which I had no idea what that was or what that meant. I've learned a lot about Y2K fashion. I've learned a lot about whimsy goth. And like I said, they also know their brands. They have this huge bolo brand list. Like, these are brands that if you find them in the wild, you should be picking them up. And a lot of times we just don't know what we don't know, but that's why they help fill in the gaps of what you may not know about what's popular in fashion right now. And then they also just know so much about running successful reselling businesses. They'll meet you wherever you're at in terms of your reselling business, whether you are just starting out or whether you're trying to scale to make $10,000 a month. They're going to meet you where you're at and help you grow from there. So if you want to learn more about Resellers Edge University, it is subscription based, which means you need to pay a monthly fee, or you can save some money and just pay for a year at a time. But I will have that information down for you in the description below. I myself am part of it and get a lot out of it. It's just great to interact with other like-minded people in the Facebook group. They have weekly Zoom meetings that you can be a part of. It's just a great community. So if that's something that you're interested in, I will have that information down for you in the description below. Now, the next part of the Poshmark listing, there are some sections that are not mandatory, but my general rule of thumb is if I can fill it out, I'm going to, because the more information I can provide to potential buyers, the more confidence they're going to have in that item. So the next section is category. You're going to select which category best fits your item. Now, to be honest, some categories are missing on Poshmark. For example, there's no kimono category. So when I'm selling something like a kimono, I'm just going to pick what fits it best. For me, I usually select tunics under the top category because kimonos are kind of tunicky, and sometimes I'm forced to select other, but you want to drill down as specifically as you can when it comes to selecting the category on Poshmark. Next, you're going to pick the size, and again, I just want to be as specific as possible. You want to use the sizes that Poshmark has generated unless it's absolutely necessary for you to create a custom size. So for example, I just listed a kimono that was a size extra small/small. I just listed it as extra small because if I were to write in a custom size of extra small/small, that means when people use the filter function when they're trying to narrow down their search, when they're searching for an item on Poshmark, my item is going to be eliminated from the search results if they're searching for something in a size extra small because I have typed in a custom size. So unless it's absolutely necessary, I'm just going to choose one of the sizes out of the list of sizes that Poshmark has generated for me. Poshmark also allows you to specify if something is plus size, petite, juniors, or maternity. So if your item falls under one of those specific categories, I would identify it as such. Next, although the brand is optional, if you know the brand, include it. Again, Poshmark has a drop-down list of brands, and if your item is one of those brands, I would select it from that drop-down menu. You can start typing in the name of your brand, and if Poshmark has that brand in their list of brand names, then it'll pop up and you can select it that way. But if Poshmark doesn't recognize your brand, you can at that point then go ahead and type it in. After that, you're going to select the color of your garment, and you can select up to 2 colors. This is especially helpful if it's harder to pin down exactly what color your garment is. I can't tell you how many times I've had an item that's like bluish green, and just kind of depending on the lighting, it's hard to tell if it's blue or green. And sometimes when you're taking pictures of an item, it's just hard to really get your camera to capture the color of that item in its truest sense. And in those situations, I will use this color portion of the Poshmark listing to signify the fact that something is bluish green. And if in my opinion it's more blue than green, I'll choose blue first and then I'll put green. This is especially helpful too if something is coral colored. If it kind of reads more orange than pink, I'll put orange and then pink. If it's more pink than orange, I'll put pink and then orange. But that's how I try to give as much information as I can about the color of a garment. Next, if something's new with tags, you can go ahead and select new with tags, and then you are allotted 3 style tags. Now, I don't particularly know if it makes a huge difference to include style tags or not. I just fill this out for the off chance that, it does have a huge impact on how much Poshmark is going to show some of my items. There is a limited drop-down menu from Poshmark, but you can also type in your own style tags like old money, for example. Now, there's a spot where you type in the original price of your item, and this is a mandatory field. I have gotten a lot of questions from people asking, does that mean I really have to go in and look up how much my item retailed for? I'm gonna say, do not waste your time. For me, honestly, I put 0 as my original price because I don't think people actually care that much. What they care about is how much you are pricing the item at, which takes us to the listing price. To be honest, this is the part that takes me the most time, is figuring out how much I want to list my item for. This is where I see a lot of people make silly mistakes. I will see people price things just too high based off of sentimental value, too high because they didn't take the time to see how much other people are pricing similar items, and they don't know that they're pricing their item way higher than a bunch of other people who have that same item. And if that's the case, think about if you were a buyer, if you are searching for an item and you see someone's item that is priced twice as much as what other people are selling it for, you're not even gonna look at that item because other people have it for much cheaper. So it is worth it to take a little bit of time to basically search for the item that it is that you're trying to sell, see if other people are selling the same or similar items, and see how much they are listing those items for. Not only that, but I would also take it one step further and see how much those items have sold for. It's one thing to say you want $50 for an item, but if that item consistently is only selling for $15, chances are you're not going to be able to sell it for $50, and by pricing it at $50, that might be why you sit on that item for a really long time and why nobody wants to buy that item from you. It's because other people are selling it for $15 or $20. And furthermore, this is where you have to kind of figure out your pricing strategy. If you are in the business of just trying to move as much inventory as quickly as possible, the name of the game for you is going to be to price lower than what everyone else is pricing at. Again, you are going to have to take the time to see how other people are pricing their similar items. But if you don't care about getting the most money out of each item, you just want to move those items quickly, you should be pricing those items cheaper than everyone else. Versus if you just want to get the most amount of money out of each sale and you're okay sitting on that item for a little bit of time, then you can price perhaps a little bit higher or at least around the same range as what everyone else is pricing their items at. Now, I recently learned about a new website that I think is going to be really helpful for those of you who might have a hard time when it comes to pricing your items. And that website is called PoshWatch. I actually got to interview the creator of PoshWatch, and I will include snippets of that interview at the end of this video if you want to learn more about this website. But PoshWatch is basically a product research website, and it is specific to Poshmark and Poshmark alone. Essentially, what it allows you to do is type in an item in their search bar, and it will give you so much information about that item's history on Poshmark. For example, it'll tell you about the sell-through rate of that particular item. It'll show you recent listings that other people have listed on Poshmark for that item. It'll tell you about the average time it takes for that particular item to sell. It'll give you a saturation percentage. The higher the percentage number means that it's a very saturated market with a lot more competition, but the lower the percentage means that there's a lot less competition, and more likely than not, your item is going to sell really fast. And then it'll give you the average price that that item has sold for. This, I think, gives you such great information in regards to how should you price your item. If you know the average price, then you know, okay, if I price a little bit below that, my item is probably going to sell pretty fast, versus, okay, if this is the average price, I'm going to price a little bit higher to leave room for people to send me offers or for me to send offers to other people. Now, PoshWatch is also awesome because there's a lot of other really great features on this website as well. For example, I think one of the best features, and I can't believe that they offer this for free, is their top brands chart. So they have a chart where they share the 100 best-selling brands on Poshmark. This, I think, is especially useful to people who are not necessarily selling stuff just out of their own closet, but people who want to learn what brands to be on the lookout for when they are at thrift stores. This is telling you, hey, hey, of all of the things that have sold on Poshmark at this moment in time, these 100 brands are the most popular brands. This is such a phenomenal resource that PoshWatch is offering for free. Now, they also have guides on how to sell. They have things like listing analyzers. If you just want PoshWatch to tell you if your listing is good or not, they'll break that down for you. Now, I will say, from having played around with PoshWatch a little bit, you have a lot more luck with getting this kind of information about the item that you're trying to sell if you know the style name for your item. PoshWatch does have a hard time giving you good information if you're really vague in what it is that you're selling. So if you just type Lululemon leggings, because what you've given PoshWatch is vague, the information that PoshWatch gives you will also be pretty vague. So it's definitely most useful if you know the style name of the item that you're trying to sell. But regardless, there's a lot of cool information that you can get from PoshWatch. There is a free version, but there's also a premium version if you want to be able to get product research on an unlimited number of items per day. Otherwise, you're capped out at, I forget how many, it's like 3 or 5 or something like that. And if you want access to their closet sharing tool and a few of the other tools that they have within their website, you do have to pay a monthly fee, but I thought it was really cool and a really valuable resource. So definitely check out my affiliate link for PoshWatch down in the description below if you feel like this is something that you'd be interested in. Now, I stated this before, but I'll state it again. There is this culture on Poshmark of sending offers, whether that is a potential buyer sending you an offer. Honestly, the majority of my sales are made from people sending me offers. So maybe someone will say, hey, I'm willing to pay you $40 for those leggings, and I say, okay, that's fine, and I accept. Or from me sending offers to people who have liked items. Honestly, when I am shopping on Poshmark, I will like items that I'm interested in, hoping that people will send me an offer, because rarely will I buy something outright at the price that someone has priced that item at. So just knowing that that's kind of the culture on Poshmark, once you figure out, okay, I am comfortable with my item selling at such price, generally speaking, most Poshmark sellers will actually list the price a little bit higher than what they're comfortable selling that item for, because they're allowing room for offers. Now, when you are pricing your item on Poshmark, Poshmark is going to offer a suggested price. 9 times out of 10, I ignore what they are suggesting because they are suggesting a much lower price than what I believe I should sell that item for. Again, that's why I think it's imperative to do a little bit of research when it comes to how you're going to price your item. Whether you're using a website like PoshWatch or you are just going in pretending like you are a buyer for the item that you're trying to sell and doing that investigative work of seeing how much people are listing that item for and how much it has sold for. Next in the listing, Poshmark is going to ask you if you want to offer discounted shipping. Personally, I do not offer discounted shipping right off the bat unless it's something that is super expensive, like a luxury item or something. Even then, I personally don't offer discounted shipping because I like to use that as a negotiation tool when sending offers. If you are offering free shipping or discounted shipping right off the bat, then it's not an extra thing that you can use to entice buyers when you are sending offers. And like I said, oftentimes a lot of people just are not willing to purchase items outright at the price that you have it listed at. And so for me, even as a shopper, it doesn't make a huge difference to me if I see that someone is offering discounted or free shipping when I'm searching for an item to buy, just because I'm hoping that that's something that they'll offer me later when I like an item, or because I'm gonna send an offer anyway. The next part of the listing is your earnings. This is just where Poshmark is showing you, okay, if you price the item at this price, this is how much you're going to make in earnings once that item sells, if it sells for that price. And what they are accounting for is any discounted shipping that you may have offered, as well as their 20% cut, or if the item sells for, I believe it's $10 or less, then they will actually take a $2.95 fee from your earnings. So that's where you can see, after all is said and done, how much money you're actually going to make from this sale if it were to sell for the price that you have it listed for. Next, you're gonna choose the availability of your listing. Once you publish that listing, do you want that item to be available for sale right now? Do you want it to not be for sale, but somehow people can still see it? I don't really get the purpose of that one. So I never select that. Or do you want to make it a drop? And that means you're not going to list it the moment that you publish that listing, but you're actually going to have that listing go live on the time and day that you set for it. This, I guess, would be helpful if you are going on vacation tomorrow, but you just want to get a ton of stuff listed and have it go live once you get back from vacation. It's just if you want to delay when that listing goes live. And there are a number of reasons why people may do that, but those are your three options there. And then finally, at the bottom of the listing, Poshmark added this maybe a few years ago, and I thought it was a really great feature. It's called additional details. And there are three things that you can include here. You can put a listing SKU, cost price, and other info. The cool thing about this portion of the listing is that other people cannot see it. Only you have access to the information in this additional details portion of your listing. For the listing SKU, this is where I put my inventory number for that particular item. If you use bins, if you hang things on a rack, however it may be, if there is a way that you assign a number or a letter to your item, this is where you would put that so that once it sells, it's easy for you to locate the item and get ready to ship it out. For the cost price, this is where I put how much I paid for the item so that when I get offers, I can quickly refer to that to see if it's worth it for me to sell that item for the offered price, given how much I had into that item to begin with. So it's just a good way for me to keep track of how much I'm spending on my inventory. And then finally, in other info, this is where you can put whatever you want. I tend to put where I purchased that item from just because that's interesting information to me. I like to keep track of where it is that I get all of my inventory, but you can put any information that you want in that other info section of your listing. And then the last thing I'll say about listing, and again, this is a little bit newer to Poshmark, is that they have a bulk listing tool. If you have 100 items that you want to list and you don't want to list your items one at a time, you can actually create a spreadsheet with all of the information that we just talked about, and you can upload all of those listings at once. I believe this is something you have to do through the Poshmark website. It's not something you can do from the app, and that's because it involves the use of an actual spreadsheet and uploading that into Poshmark. And obviously there's a very specific way that you have to go about doing that. But if you want to save a lot of time and you have a lot of listings that you want to do at once, or if you are selling on Poshmark and you're coming over from a place like eBay or Mercari, this would be the way to do it. So now that you've listed your item, step 4 is selling your item. Is it enough to just list the item and have it living on Poshmark? Unfortunately, no, it is not. And in this section, we're going to talk about the different things you can do to help speed along the process of actually getting your item sold. One thing that makes Poshmark unique from other reselling platforms is that it considers itself a social reselling platform, which I don't know who is asking for that, but that's what they are. And one of the things they want you to do is to share your listings regularly on Poshmark. We're gonna get into the ways that you can share your listings, but the reason why I do think it's important to play their game when it comes to sharing your listings is because it has a direct effect on whether or not your listings will show up in the search results when people search for items using the Poshmark search bar. Here's what I mean. So let's use the example we've been using all video long. If someone is searching for a pair of Lululemon Align leggings, they'll type that into the search bar, hit enter, and then a bunch of people's listings of Lululemon Align leggings will pop up. How does Poshmark decide which listings to show first? Which listings show up at the top? They decide by, again, how much of what's in each person's listing title matches what was typed in the Poshmark search bar, but also the recency of when those items were shared. So if I share my listing of Lululemon Align leggings and 1 second later, someone searches for Lululemon Align leggings, my listing is going to be right at the top of the search results because it's going to say this was shared 2 seconds ago, versus the person who listed their Lululemon Align leggings a month ago and never shared it since then. that listing is going to be buried way at the bottom of the search results, probably like 1,000 listings later, because of the lack of recency of when that listing was shared. That is why it's so important to share your listings as frequently as possible. And for the sake of full transparency, I don't do that manually because it takes so much time out of my day. I have better things to do than to sit there and share each of my listings. I use a third-party extension called PoshVA. I will have links for it down in the description below if you're interested in that. But Poshmark did finally come out with a way to bulk share their closet. That way you don't have to spend any money on a third-party product if you don't want to. And I do share how to use that bulk sharing feature in this video right here, and I will also have this video linked down in the description, and you can watch that after you watch this. That video just has like more advanced tips for people who want to get the most out of Poshmark, and how to bulk share your closet is one of those tips. Another thing to be wary of when you're just starting out on Poshmark and trying to make sales is that there are a lot of scammers on Poshmark. There are a lot of people who will comment on your listing, or they will send you private messages and they will say something along the lines of, hey, I really want to buy this, but the pictures are showing up really blurry on my phone. Can you please send pictures to this email? And they'll type the email out all weird because Poshmark doesn't want people sharing private information like email addresses on their app. And they're doing that to try to lure you off of Poshmark and get some information from you. Don't ever do it. If people are asking you to email them, if they're asking you to go to a different website. Recently I got a message that my Poshmark account was in danger of being suspended and I had to go to this website and do this other thing. Don't do it. There are a lot of people trying to take advantage of Poshmark sellers. As enticing as they may make it sound, do not do it. Report them. There's a little flag on the side of each message that people send you, and you can just let Poshmark know that this person is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, and hopefully that'll shut their account down. But just beware of scammers, know that they're there, ignore them, and move on. Now, like I said earlier, probably 90% of my sales on Poshmark are a result of offers. It's either someone sending me an offer and me accepting that offer, or it's me sending offers to people who have liked my items. So in your notifications on Poshmark, and you probably get a ton, by the way, you can customize your notifications so that you're not getting notifications about every little last thing on Poshmark. But one notification that I try to pay special attention to is if someone has liked an item of mine. And if they have, then I can actually send an offer to the person who has liked that particular item. And you can customize how much of an offer you want to send someone. If it's an item that maybe you've had in your possession for a very long time, maybe you're feeling especially generous and you just want to get that item out of your house, at that point you can send a 50% off offer if you want, and you can offer free shipping just to sweeten the deal. But that is how I make the majority of my sales, is by sending offers to people who have liked items, and also from people sending me offers on items. Poshmark also recently came out with a tool called the My Shoppers tool, and in the My Shoppers tool you can actually send offers to people in bulk. You can send messages to people in bulk. I do a deep dive on that in this video right here, which is kind of more like advanced Poshmark tips, and I will have a link for that video down in the description as well. I think it's a great video to watch after you finish this one. But I think Poshmark is figuring out that they need to create more avenues through which sellers can make more sales, because the more sales we make, the more money Poshmark makes as well. Finally, I would definitely advertise your Poshmark closet on social media. If you have any sort of social media presence, just share the fact that you're selling stuff on Poshmark to your friends on Facebook or on Instagram. And furthermore, I would let people know that if they sign up for Poshmark using your link, they get a $10 credit, which is really cool because if you're sharing some of the items that you have for sale on Poshmark, and if they're interested in getting one of those items from you, if they sign up using your referral link, they'll actually get a $10 credit to buy one of your items with, which means that they can get it for less, and you get a $10 credit as well if they purchase something using your link. So definitely make sure to share the fact that you're selling on Poshmark with your referral link on all of your social media platforms, which I think makes this a good time for me to share with you that I myself have a referral link for Poshmark. If you haven't actually signed up for a Poshmark account yet, you can do so by signing up for my link, and I have that down in the description as well. The last thing I will share about selling on Poshmark is that Poshmark is now offering live selling. You can do live shows, and some people have a lot of success with this. If you really enjoy engaging with people in a more like personal way, rather than just listing things on the internet, you might really enjoy Poshmark live shows. Generally speaking, I think you will sell items for much less than if you were to sell them by listing them on the app, but most people also find that they're able to move through more product in one show than they do just from listing things traditionally. So what I mean by that is if you have a live show and you have 50 things for sale in that live show, chances are you're gonna move through, let's say 20 to 30 of those items in that 2 to 3 hour show. And selling 20 to 30 items in 2 to 3 hours is selling through those items way faster than the amount of time that it would take for you to list those items on Poshmark the way that I've been talking about thus far in this video. So it's not for everyone, but if it's something that you want to try, just search Poshmark live shows on YouTube, and you're gonna find a ton of videos from people talking about how to do live shows on Poshmark. I've tried them, I'm okay with them. It's not personally my favorite way to sell, but for some people who really like being on camera and engaging with people, you might find that that's the way that you want to sell your clothes on Poshmark. The final step that we'll talk about when it comes to selling on Poshmark, before we get to kind of our miscellaneous items, is shipping your item once it sells. Shipping on Poshmark, I think, is pretty easy, especially when you compare it to shipping on other platforms like eBay. But I like to start by seeing if I have any recycled shipping products in my house. You know, if I can reuse a poly mailer from Amazon or a box from a package that I received earlier that week, that's where I start. If you're going to do that, you want to make sure that you completely remove the previous shipping label that was on that box to begin with, or you can even color over the whole thing with a Sharpie or something like that, or just cover it with a piece of paper. But you want to make sure that there's no trace of that original shipping label on the box or bag. Otherwise, USPS can actually refuse to ship that package out. The other thing you can do is use USPS shipping products. You can use anything from their priority mail, regional, or do they have like ground advantage lines? The only things you cannot use are anything that's part of their express shipping line. Anything that says express shipping on it, you want to make sure that you don't touch those. But even their flat rate shipping products, you can use those. And you can get boxes and mailers and stuff like that for free from any USPS post office. You can even get boxes and shipping bags sent to your home for free if you go to USPS.com. So with the combination of using recycled shipping products and getting stuff for free from USPS, you shouldn't have to pay for any shipping products except for maybe like tape to close up boxes and maybe for shipping labels. So once you have the box or the bag that you're going to ship the item out in, you do want to print a shipping label. I have a Dymo shipping label printer. If you don't have a label printer like that, you can literally just print it from any printer. You can go to the library and print it if you want, and then you just want to make sure that you tape that label on your box. The post office does say that they don't want you to have any tape over the barcode itself, so if you can just tape around the shipping label, that is ideal. Now, Poshmark has a great deal with USPS where you are able to ship anything up to 5 pounds, and that does include the weight of the box and any other shipping materials that you're using. You can ship up to 5 pounds using that prepaid shipping label that Poshmark sends you once you make a sale. However, if something weighs more than 5 pounds, you want to make sure that you go in to Poshmark and adjust the weight of the shipping label. And if you have to do that, let's say whatever it is that you're shipping out weighs 8 pounds, you are going to be responsible for paying the difference of that 8-pound shipping label versus the 5-pound one that Poshmark gives you. And it does get kind of pricey, but that is the price you have to pay to ship something out that weighs more than 5 pounds. You're going to want to make sure that you ship your item as quickly as possible because Poshmark users can see your average ship time. And if buyers notice like, man, this person takes an average of 5 days to get their items out the door, they might be less willing to buy from you than someone else who's able to ship in a more timely manner. So you do want to just make sure that you are shipping as quickly as possible. And once you have your item packaged nicely, I like to put my items in a clear cellophane bag just to make sure that it's protected in case something happens to the exterior packaging. I also include a thank you card and like craft paper if the item necessitates it. But once you have your item packaged, you can either arrange for a porch pickup using the USPS app. That means a postal worker will literally come to your house and pick up your packages from your porch, or you just bring the items to the post office. Finally, just some miscellaneous information for you about Poshmark. They will push very heavily this feature called promoted closets. If you are just starting out on Poshmark, personally, I am going to say it's not worth it. Just try selling on Poshmark for free before you fork over money for them to promote your listings even more. And if you want to learn more about promoted listings, again, I would just search promoted listings on YouTube and you'll find a ton of videos that people have made about their experience with promoted closets. I did try it once for free when they were letting people try it for free as part of their beta, and I didn't see the value in it. So personally, I'm not gonna say that it's worth it. I would recommend that you save your money and not use it, but just know that they're gonna push it very heavily. The next miscellaneous tip that I would give you is to just kind of feed the Poshmark algorithm. Make sure that you're listing pretty consistently, ship as quickly as you can, and I would say engage with other closets sparingly. Poshmark is gonna keep telling you,
hey, make sure that you're following other people, make sure that you are sharing, listings from other people's closets.
And you'll notice in your notifications that people are doing that for you as well. People are following you, people are sharing your listings, and you might ask yourself, is that something that I have to do? Again, I do it with the use of PoshVA, which is a paid for third-party tool that I use. It's not something that you have to do, but you could do it sparingly. You could go through your notifications and maybe take 5 minutes out of your day to follow back people who have followed you in the first place, to share a few of their listings. I do think that probably it has a positive effect within the Poshmark algorithm, but I also think that there are a ton of people on Poshmark who are making really good money and not doing any of those things. So it's up to you, but if you want to play their game a little bit and see if it helps, maybe experiment with just trying, 5 minutes a day of following other people and sharing their closets. And finally, I do think there is value in relisting stale listings, which means if you listed something a few months ago and it just hasn't sold yet, I do think it's worth it to relist it. So hopefully, now that we have gone through all 5 steps and gone over a few miscellaneous tips for how to sell on Poshmark, hopefully you feel like you have all of the information that you need to sell successfully on Poshmark. I have made really good money over there, and that's why I continue to talk about selling on Poshmark and share my Poshmark selling tips with you on my YouTube channel, is because I want other people to find the same kind of success that I have found on Poshmark. If you still have questions about how to sell on Poshmark, definitely leave them down in the comments below and I will try to help you with those additional questions. And furthermore, if you have been selling on Poshmark for a while and you have other tips on how to sell on Poshmark, leave those down in the comments too, so that we can all learn from each other. But it is a very, very simple platform to sell on. Again, I have made a lot of money selling on there. And if after watching this video, you're like, man, I just want to learn even more about how to sell on Poshmark, in this video right here, I share all of the tips that I have learned from my 7 years of selling on Poshmark. I'll have that listed for you down in the description below as well. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you want more content like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. Hi everyone. So I have with me Justine, one of the co-founders of PoshWatch. She started it with her husband. Justine, thank you so much for being on and answering my questions about this amazing site.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here chatting with you and to share what we have.
Yes. So first, can you tell me what inspired you and your husband to create PoshWatch?
So I love Poshmark. I love shopping on Poshmark. And my husband loves building stuff. We're both engineers by trade. I left my job, was kind of bored and wanted to just do something else more fulfilling and more exciting, and decided, why not build some stuff for Poshmark? We like digging into data. I like Poshmark in general and finding stuff. And so why not combine the two? And so we joined some communities and saw that folks were looking for help with research. They were asking a lot of questions in groups like, what sells? Tell me the BOLO items for you guys. What's doing well for you guys? I saw a lot of posts like that, and we're like, okay, seems like people want some help finding what sells well. So that's how it came to be.
When you're able to approach Poshmark as a seller, it kind of helps you put on a different hat in terms of like how you think about Poshmark and the needs. There's a lot of data to look at, but it's not easily accessible to everyday normal people like myself who are not engineers or don't know how to, like scrape for that kind of information. Can you tell us what PoshWatch has evolved into? Because like you said, it started as just a tool to help people share their Poshmark closet because there is a need for that as well. But what is it now? What is the aim of PoshWatch?
Before we tapped into the research part of it, we noticed people were asking for help with listings. Things aren't selling well. Can you tell me what I'm doing wrong? And so we're like, okay, so people need help with listings. So we created a listing analyzer, a free one that people could just drop their URL in and it would give feedback based on, title, description. I kind of just studied what everyone was giving feedback on and the tips that they were giving. And we put it into a tool. And so that was our first tool after sharing. And then we tapped into the research side of things. So I did one for rank checking to help you check, where your listing is in the search results for a particular keyword. So now it's become a suite of tools with the main focus being research. We actually have 2 pricing plans. The difference would be in terms of access. So business will always give you unlimited access, which is $30 a month at this time. And then the standard, I believe, is $20 a month. And then that will have limited searches and limited shares.
Let's go to the product research, because I think that this seems like one of the features of PoshWatch that you guys are most excited about. Can you explain first, before we dive into it, what is the best way to utilize the product research feature within PoshWatch?
The best way to use it would be when you're doing your thrifting. I know it's going to be different for different resellers. Some folks might have more familiarity with the brands that they tend to source, and maybe they don't need to do it while they're thrifting. But then in that case, you would be doing it at home to help you with pricing. So you'd be able to see the average price and make a determination on what price to set based on market saturation and how many listings versus sold versus listings and stuff like that. Stuff that you would be manually doing anyway when you go visit the sold listings on Poshmark. We just pull all those numbers to the front so that you can see them and just make a decision more quickly. And for folks who are new and they don't really have familiarity with categories and subcategories yet, then going into the thrift store, using Google Lens to identify the product and figuring out the style name, putting it in, and then you could filter down even further to size. Maybe you're looking at an extra large. You want to see, does this item sell well in extra large? So that's kind of how I see it. The best place to start is probably our top selling brands list. Think of it as the ultimate bolo. We regenerate it every month, and we're going to be doing it more frequently as well. So for the last month, we just regenerated yesterday. So for the last month, Coach was the top selling brand, and you'll be able to see the sales volume, the items sold, average price, the top categories, and then you can click in and do some more research. You see how many sellers, some more stats here, and you could see the top resellers. You can see wholesale. You is the top reseller for Coach, and then you can even visit. We have the ability for you to go and visit the sellers page and see, what it is that they're focused on, based on what's selling on their profile. And we give you some shots of what was recently sold and more details here. If I was a new seller, this is probably where I would start. Just to learn more about brands. You visit the thrift store, see what your local thrift store has around, and then you go or you come to PoshWatch and you see, okay, I have Free People, so let me go and take a look at that and see, what top selling categories are doing well on Free People. Maxi dresses, mini dresses, rompers, and then you can go in deeper and maybe pick one up from the thrift store and see, okay, how does that one perform? That's kind of how I would go about it.
That is really powerful. And like you said, again, it's a lot of information in one place, and people can do deep dives, especially helpful for newer sellers, but even really good information for seasoned resellers of like, at this given time, it's a good snapshot of what's doing well. And I like that you can see
the amount in sales, and it looks like you could probably filter, and like the rank will change up if you want to go by number of items sold versus the amount of earnings from that particular brand, or even average price, because some people are not going to find things that sell for that like $500 average price point or something.
Yeah, and we also have one little thing here allowing you to separate the luxury brands from the non-luxury brands, because I noticed that it's exciting to see luxury brands, obviously, because they pull a lot of big numbers, and everyone's excited to find some vintage Louis Vuitton or vintage insert luxury brand here item at the thrift store. But how often is that happening? Probably not too much. So while it's nice to aspire to finding something like that, to be a little bit more realistic, we allow you to filter those out so that you can see what brands that aren't luxury that are doing well.
I mean, that's extremely generous, and I feel like a lot of people do not know that this exists. Definitely visit, even if you're going to just check that out. If you have any more questions about PoshWatch, or if you want to check them out, I do have a link down in the description below that you can check out. It is an affiliate link, so I do get a little kickback just for having Justine on the channel and being the one to kind of share about this tool with you. But there's a lot you can do for free in there, it seems. So definitely poke around for a bit before you want to commit, before you want to enter your credit card information. And I think you're going to find that there's a lot of value in this site and in this tool, especially if you are a little bit newer at reselling and you're a little overwhelmed with how much you feel like you need to know in order to create a listing. Justine, thank you so much for coming on our channel and giving us the inside scoop on your amazing product. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Becky, for having me. I really appreciate being here. Give it a try and let me know what you think.